And we are live with the Draw or Die podcast number 4. I'm your host, DJ Kaufman. I'm here with my lovely wife, Allie, Alicia. And tonight we're going to be talking about a couple different things, a little roundtable of topics, going from talking about whether it's unprofessional or not to talk about publishers or contracts online. We'll talk about going digital and should you. We'll talk about threats from AI art, and we're also going to maybe show a little sneak peek of a couple things behind the scenes, and we'll go from there. So, first up, let's wait. Oh, some people are joining in. Okay, great. I gotta not. I have to not look at that part. So, hello everyone. So yeah, this week the roundtable will be. We're going to kick it off with artist Mike Hawthorne, who posted a tweet, and I'm not going to share that actual tweet with you. I don't have it summed up, or I don't have it queued up to share it. But basically, artist Mike Hawthorne tweeted an invoice that he got for a what do you call it? Royalty payment from one of his publishing deals, and he shows the full breakdown. And in the end, he only made $1.44. So his quote that stuck out and kind of started getting passed around artist Twitter and cartoonist kayfabe and all that stuff was that this is why artists die broke and cynical. And then the thread actually kind of goes into it more about, he knows the ropes. He's a professional. He knows the contracts that he signs, and he doesn't go into the details of what publisher this was. But I thought it was pretty eye opening because, the comments, some of the comments I saw were kind of half outrage, half like, "Oh my God, it's so bad to be an artist," and like, "What a terrible thing." But he was like, "No, no, I knew what I was getting into." I guess I can speak a little bit from this because I've signed some bad contracts in the past, but I don't even think that was a bad contract as much as it was just it is what it is. You think that you're going to go after these big publishing deals and whoa, I'm going to get a royalty check and I'm going to be set for life. And I mean, I maybe know like one artist I can think of who does pretty well with his royalties, but all the others that I know personally, when they get a royalty check from Marvel or DC or Image or something like that, or not Image but Dark Horse, it's pretty small. It's like a couple bucks, and the the thing that always sticks out to me when I'm thinking about this, and especially when we're working on a project. Like if I'm working on a project, and Alicia will hear me say this all the time, but I'm like, artists get paid last. Everybody else gets paid first. Everyone. The printer gets paid first. The in between people, the marketer, the the publishers for sure, all the employees at the publisher, editors, everyone else gets paid first, and the artists and creators usually get paid last, if at all. And that's always kind of bothered me. But there's nothing you can do about it because it's just the way that like Mike Hawthorne said, it's just the way that it is. This is the system, and this is the thing that so many people are trying to break into, which is also odd.
Well, there is something you can do about it. I mean, you can just not play the game for that team.
Right. Yeah. So I think, yeah, saying that there's nothing you can do about it, I think that I would say, I think I wrote something out too earlier, maybe part of the newsletter this week, just about unless artists in mass rose up and said, no more. We're not going to sign these things and you're going to pay us first, or these pencils are not going to move. And that's never going to happen. Um, uh, but you're right. I think it was Robert Kirkman who was really pushing a while back for people not to work for other companies and do legacy brands and instead work on new titles and new things. But that's a catch-22 as well. Like new ideas don't really, there's a reason that a lot of new ideas don't go over well because the market wants the same stuff over and over and over again. So it's just kind of a cannibalistic, strange thing, at least in comic books. So don't get me wrong. There is a lot of hope out there if you want to find a career in art. It's just not in comic books proper, let's say. Right? Yeah. Um, so yeah, I guess I mentioned to her earlier that I said, but is it unprofessional if you know the ropes? Is it unprofessional to kind of go online and bitch about it and show that and like light that up? And I thought a younger me would have done that, I think. But now I'm like, oh, like Mike, that's
But it only matters if you want to go back and drink from that well again. But the moral is you probably shouldn't go back to that well. So of course the publisher's going to think that's unprofessional because they want you to play their game. But you can if everybody talks about it, then maybe they have to be taken to task. Maybe it has to get better.
Yeah, but I guess on the flip side of that, there will always be, listen, the publishing numbers aren't great out there, anyways. But there's an attitude at a lot of publishers of there's always going to be a revolving door of artists that are willing to work for nothing, cheap. I actually had people tell me that one time, like when I was in another situation. I won't get too involved in talking about it, but I was really up in arms about fellow creators being paid with the publisher that I was working with. And at the time, like the vice president of that company was pretty much pulled me aside and said, hey, listen, there will always be people that are willing to work with us. And basically was telling me that my friends didn't matter. And as long as I was getting paid, I should be happy. And I was like, no, this isn't right. Burn this mother down, But Mike, Mike Hawthorne, he's a pretty well-known, very talented artist and teacher, I believe, too. He has some art books and things like that. I think he does some classes and things. Brilliant artist. He's worked for Marvel and lots of different publishers. So maybe it does take someone like that to kind of start shedding some light on it, but I don't know how it solves anything, really, except the abyss of the internet and people complaining about bad contracts and stuff like that. On the flip side of that, there are also people that I kind of agree with sometimes. I'm like, I'm down with that, where they say that comic conventions should pay artists to show up. It shouldn't be the other way around. The artist shouldn't pay like $200, $300 to be filling these spots. And I'm like, I'm down with that, but I'm also kind of like, I understand how the conventions work too. So they gotta pay rent and they gotta, But when you find out that some B movie actor from CBS in the 1980s is getting paid to show up there, and you're like, wait, what? Like, hold on, I think there's a couple shows like that where Larry Hama won't go to let's just call him the creator G.I. Joe. He won't go to some shows now because they won't even, fund anything, hotel room or nothing. There's no comps for a lot of these guys. Yeah. Anyways, it's just it is how it is, I guess you could say. I don't think that we're gonna change that part, but perhaps when you're getting into this, no matter, or if you've been out of it and you're coming back in, maybe you kind of have to like ignore the status quo and start doing your own thing. I think is probably for the best, and kind of avoid what's been done before, because I think there's so much opportunity. There's so much opportunity I see online. I mean, we have all these amazing tools. Look what we're doing right now. This is magic. Could you imagine what artists in the 1950s would have done with this kind of stuff? Like, holy cow. Or a magical screen that you can draw on. I mean, it's pretty amazing. We're really living in a golden age of creation, and all we're doing is sitting around going, oh, I only made $1.44 this month. Like, I don't know.
I think looking at the landscape of what you can do with your art for money, when we first started talking about it, the most shocking thing to me is that, there are other mediums like children's books for instance, or spot illustration, or I think you had taken a gig of just putting together somebody's scientific report with graphics. And those jobs are so much less work than the sequential art with the big spreads and the hero shots and writing with the motion of your characters without animation, regardless of whether you're delivered a script or not. And it's like the comic book industry has been romanticized to the point where they know they can take advantage of you, but you could use those same skills and draw in a different medium or draw for a different client. And it's not exaggerating to say that you're going to make 10 times more on the project. And that's sad. It's sad. It's hard for me to read them now that I know. I don't think people know.
Yeah, I talked about that a little bit last week as far as like some people don't realize that like Will Eisner, who, you know, the Eisner Awards in comics are named after him, right? That the majority of his working life was done in nonfiction comic books. It wasn't through graphic novels or anything like that. He was working for government contracts. I actually have a pretty good friend that's doing, I don't know what Brandon does, but I won't name drop him too much. I'm going to say Brandon. And I'm going to say Brandon, I think, still draws stuff, but it's for some government agency or something. I don't know. Like, it's probably they're like, here's how to wash your hands, or videos or something like that, like tutorials on stuff. There's agencies out there that need illustrators. It's not just all created by, stock art and computers. We'll get to that maybe coming up here. But yeah, and by the way, I forgot about that weird. I'll get a lot of weird requests, and I turn them down a lot of times. But sometimes the requests come in and they're like, "What was that?" It was like a textbook or something. And it was referred to me.
It was a scientific report put together by some agency in Canada.
Yeah.
And I think that it might have amounted to 4 hours work, and you didn't want to do it.
No.
So I don't know if you've ever talked about what we do when you don't want the job, but
Yeah.
we basically sit and think of what amount of money would they not pay to do this? And we say, okay, we can do that. DJ will do that for you. That's going to be $1,800. And then they said, okay.
For 4 hours. And we're like, okay, I guess I'm doing that thing.
I guess you're formatting a scientific report.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it's boring as hell for 4 hours, but I'm like, okay.
But if you ever quoted that as an hourly rate to a comic book, they would think that you had lost your mind. They really would.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I definitely don't want to. I don't want to. I have a lot of friends that are writers, publishers, and things like that, and I don't want this to think. I don't want anyone to think that this is directed at them because they're in that game or that whatever. But
it's just the standard. I mean, it's
standard.
They would be stupid if they paid more.
And when you really break down what the hourly wage is for a page rate or something like that, it's so low. I mean, I made a joke in the one video about I could go work at the gas station and make more money than on a comic book that was like connected to super famous people, and this is going to be your big break and shit like that. And I'm just like, nah, that's not real. Like, that's not a real thing.
It might be real for some people. I mean, somebody might pick up a book and see somebody and it's kismet and
yeah, maybe.
Just, are you playing the lottery or are you doing a job?
Yeah. That's the thing. And I think that's what my only problem with Mike Hawthorne's tweet and showing the actual picture of his invoice. It was nice to see that for people that have never seen an invoice for a royalty. But I also kind of feel like, man, that might be a little bit unprofessional. Like, even though I have bad contracts, I don't think I would take a picture of the contract or the invoice and put it online and then go like, yeah, like, I don't know.
The other thing is if you read the invoice, part of the deduction was for an advance. So he did receive funds.
Right.
Is an advance. So I don't know what that's about. But
Yeah, and he did go on to say like, "Oh, this was an older project," so it's like, but the framing of it was strange. I think there's both sides there. It's like, don't you know, don't bite the hand that feeds you, maybe, unless you're that, like you said, unless you're never going to go back to that hand again. Um, or if you're just like, I am done freelancing for people and I'm going to light this thing on fire, then great. And of course, I'm sure there's a lot of people listening that like would, love to make any of that money on any of this stuff, let alone, so I don't, when I say bad news stories like that, I don't mean that never to do it or, um, that there isn't money out there. I'm just saying that, yeah, the deals aren't great, but I don't know. I could live pretty simply. I think most artists could live pretty simply with a small pay, and that's true. Now we should definitely try to ask for more, and don't tell publishers that, like, because they'll think he'll do this for $10. Um, but I think there's a lot of people that third world countries even that's a huge pay for them, those jobs. So that's kind of what everybody's kind of competing with too in the comic book industry, is like, what's the speed you can do, how fast can you put things out. um, it's a grind, it's a meat grinder, let's say. um, but yeah, work on your own stuff. I think we'll end that topic there, I think, with that. I can keep talking about it, but I won't. um, Next topic, it's a nice little segue in these conversations tonight, would be that I was on Facebook and I have a friend who used to do things very traditionally, still wants to do things traditionally, 11 by 17 drawings on paper, Bristol board. And he said, "Hey, listen, I went to Kinko's and they're going to stop doing 11 by 17 scanning for me." And I mean, I don't think that this guy's like super old or anything or out of touch. He just would always go and do it a certain way. He had a traditional way that he went and did his things, and now he feels like he's screwed. And he was asking his friends for advice. I did not put my advice in the comments. I read it and I thought about it, but I thought I don't want to step into this back and forth about digital art. But my advice would have been that all of that could be solved if he would just go digital and start learning some digital art. Um, and I know that that's hard for traditional artists to go, I'm never going to do that, or I'm not technologically advanced enough to use an iPad or something like that. But I think the reason I wanted to bring this up was just to say, to keep an open mind to it, because you could still do the traditional stuff, and instead of scanning your pencils in, it's easy to take a picture of it with an iPhone or a high resolution camera.
well,
You don't really, yeah.
you can buy a high res 11 by 17 scanner for $100.
I know.
So,
But I mean, the thing I think I'm trying to say is that some artists are stuck in their ways, where they're like, I always did it this way. I drew my pencils out, I took it to Kinko's, and they would do it for me, because they got no clue on how to use technology at all. Like, they don't know how to do it, or they have a basic setup. And I just want to tell those people, like, guys, you need to learn a little bit, just a little bit of technology. um, I think probably the majority of the people I'm talking to know exactly what I mean. But uh, there are definitely old school guys that are totally against, not against digital art. They're just like, I can't do it. Like, it's voodoo to me. It's almost like my dad can't use a remote for TV or something, and or his cell phone. Like, someone gave him a cell phone and he just can't. He's like, I can't work this thing. Rah. But if you realize that these are just tools and that you can actually evolve and use them, I think that's kind of a thing. I sat next to uh, a really amazing, I would say, not legendary inker, Wayne Foucher, um, at a Pittsburgh Comic Con or something, or Three Rivers Comic Con the one time, and I was drawing on my iPad the whole show and doing some like digital commissions or something. And he looked curious. He was like, "What what are you doing there?" And my daughter tells me I should do this, and I handed him the iPad and gave him the one brush that I have called Old School Inker because it has those guys in mind. When he's like, I don't think I can do the right. It won't feel like the feeling of drawing on paper for him. And he grabbed the brush and he started to make a couple lines on the iPad the way that I have it set up. And he was like, "Oh, oh, oh, okay. How much does this cost? And like, what's the whole setup cost and all this stuff?" And it was fun to watch him kind of explore that for the first time. So I think just kind of keep an open mind. I know I don't even think it's a, you know, it's not, it's not like it's not, I don't, what am I saying? Not affordable. You don't have to have the iPad Pro anymore. You can, I just found this out myself. I think Alicia has an iPad Air, and I didn't know, like one of the new iPad Airs, which are pretty cheap, pretty reasonably affordable, I think. And the Apple Pencil works on that with Procreate, and I was like, I didn't think the Apple Pencil worked for pressure sensitivity on that, and it does. So um, there's entry level things that you can do, and I definitely say that going digital is worth it. But yeah, both. Like Miriam said, she uses paper uh, for thumbnailing and digital for the rest.
I think I was wrong about the price of the scanner. Sorry, guys.
It's like $300 for an 11 by 17.
I guess I could see how it would be frustrating if I was trying to shop for it because like just every scanner comes up. But yeah, probably around 300.
Yeah.
So you could invest that in an iPad or
But like it's like gigantic. It would take up the spot. Like I don't have enough space for that. I used to scan my 11 by 17 Bristol on a regular size scanner and do it in halves and piece it together in Photoshop. I'm sure a lot of people have done that, but I'll never do that again. Like I just won't. You know, I'm all in on digital, but I still like to do the thumbnails and I like to draw in notebooks and sketchbooks and stuff like that. But man, I was just watching on YouTube this week 1000. If you don't know who that is, look it up. 10 TEN 100. And he has like a video called like 8 secrets of my career, of my art career. And his tips are things like, you know, when he started out, he used really cheap ink, cheap paints from like Walmart. And then he leveled up. He's like, here's why I went and bought the good paints because it takes less coverage, all the like technical stuff about better tools and things like that. And Barry, Barry. All right. Well, hey, that's digital. Galaxy Note for life. I still don't know how you draw. Barry draws everything on his Galaxy Note, which we gotta record you doing this, Barry, and then bring it on the show and show people like what your process is on a Galaxy Note because it's pretty impressive. I've seen a little bit of it. Um, where was I? Shoot, I lost my space. What was I saying, Alicia?
that you my AirPad my iPad Air that you didn't think that it would work. And I kept telling you that I was going to get a stylus and you kept saying I couldn't draw on it, but then I could in fact draw on it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're going down that path, and then now I'm thinking about Barry drawing on a Galaxy Note, which is just always blowing my mind. um, yeah, I think uh, definitely investing in it and keeping open to learning as you go is really good. And I don't think I'll ever go back, to be honest. Like maybe for funsies, like with a mini comic or something like that. But um, it's just part of the evolution, I think, of how this goes. And that kind of like goes into the next topic that came up. I saw this in the. I was talking about 1000. I'm sorry, I kind of diverged here. Barry threw me off. Sorry, that's my fault. 1000 said uh, his tools about paint and like the tools that he used and like some other tips that are great in his video. Um, going to gallery shows. He had a lot of tips like that too. Like, hey, make sure you're going to the local gallery openings and just being chill. And like sooner or later, you'll start becoming part of that art community in your neighborhood. And that's kind of how he came up where he is. And but one of his tips was he held up the iPad Pro and he was just like, this thing changed my life. And now he shows a little bit about how he uses it. And I'm surprised he doesn't have like a Sketchboard Pro or something on his desk. Um, but yeah, it's just to see like, pretty popular artists that were traditional, like he does murals and stuff like that. And he's like jamming. He does his mural sketches on the iPad Pro and then projects them onto the walls and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to watch how artists are using technology. I think that's a good segue into the topic about AI art and the controversy this week about AI art. And I already had a newsletter about this a little bit when it first popped up, and I was messing around with it a little bit because I was like, I want to learn what is this shit? Like, how's this working? I forget the name of the one that I was using. It's not even important. There's a bunch of different ones out there that you can basically type in a prompt and it'll make something for you. And when I was doing that, I was thinking like, this is weird and incredible. And in the back of my mind, I thought, how is it doing this? It's not being creative. And I thought, it must be sourcing all images of all time on the internet faster than a human brain can comprehend and then mixing them all together somehow from some source. And this week, and they said, no, that's not true. It's magic, right? And this week it turned out that DeviantArt, so many artists online, or maybe if you're watching this, you know about DeviantArt and having DeviantArt accounts to post your artwork. I guess there was some pretty big controversy that happened where they automatically opted in all of their users so that their galleries could be used to be sourced for an AI tools, right? So for the AI part of DeviantArt, but it was also kind of giving the rights to allow these softwares to kind of come in and look at your galleries, and that's what it was doing. And I'm like, God dang it! I knew that's how these computers were working. Like, they must be sourcing search SEO type stuff where there's search terms. They're grabbing and pulling from all different places faster than a human brain could ever conceive, and then they're just making the art. So it was basically theft. Like, that's what all these artists were up in like, I'm deleting my DeviantArt account.
Did someone find their art in AI art?
I don't know. I don't know that part. I just know that I went online briefly and I saw a bunch of artists outraged and saying they were deleting their DeviantArt accounts. And then the interesting part, and you had to opt out of it. And to get to the opt out was like really tricky as well, of course. They don't want you to opt out. And yeah, it's theft for sure. Magical. But the owners of DeviantArt got this right away, and they were like, "Oh, sorry, we didn't mean to do that," and they just kind of walked that back. They were like, "No, we're not going to do that anymore."
Well, like, isn't it too late? I mean, you can't really unring that bell.
Right, because
it's not like the computers are going to forget.
Yeah, and who knows where these other ones are sourcing from Google image search or something like that. Where they're not asking for permission to take from these art gallery places, but now you're like, shit. All these years you've been on Facebook and putting up galleries of comics, you've been on Webtoon. Just me thinking about where I've posted my art, where I'm like, oh, isn't it great that this stuff is free and I don't have to pay for a website, and it's so great. Now you see why. Because the monetization part is going to happen on the other side. Instagram's going to get crawled, and you think Meta's taking that money from the back end. That's kind of what's going on,
Well, do you remember whenever we found Webtoon?
Yeah.
And you did that little gig for them, and then we started using it, and I could never figure it out because there weren't any ads.
Yeah.
So why are they giving you this hosting space? Why are they giving you these free eyeballs? And I think we talked about that off and on for a month. You know, what are they doing to monetize this? Because it just didn't seem like. And then of course, you know, they had the publishing deals, and I'm sure they got a cut of the people that they got book deals and things, but now it makes more sense. It makes more sense now.
You ever like those old West movies, or even My Friends in Europe? It seems to be maybe an Italian thing from like spaghetti westerns and things like that, where they make the people, they make the good guys go out and dig their own graves, and they don't know what they're digging, and they're digging their own grave. That's kind of what digital art has started to feel like, where it's like, oh, here's these free galleries that you can use, guys. And now there's these AI monsters, and that controversy is like, oh, these things are now being banned. I saw just today a big anime convention banned any AI art from Artist Alley. So you had to prove that you made it yourself. Which, how are you ever going to, how do you prove that? If you're a digital artist, how do you prove it's not AI? Do you have to sit there and like show a video of you doing it? I don't know. But it's starting to become more of a, I was siding on the idea that it was a tool. And we had a guy in Promptober actually who was doing like, he was actually using it as reference. Like he would type the prompt in and he would get some ideas, and then he actually would draw it out in Procreate. But he got the concept and the composition of the paintings through one of the tools. And that's what kicked off me wanting to learn about it. And I thought, okay, maybe it can speed you up. But in the end, now I'm kind of leaning to, like, I saw Jake Parker talking about this. I saw a couple other artists this week kind of leaning into like, this is bad, guys. Like, this is gonna be bad for artists. And I just kept thinking about that dig your own grave sort of thing.
They definitely have some bugs to iron out though. Like most of them can't do hands because I see them and it'll look pretty good, but once there's a face, like the proportions in the face are always weird. Um, but there was one, and I tried to find it. They also had a Promptober, so when I would search that tag, I found a lot of AI art, and most of it seemed to have like an Asian flair to it. So I don't know if that is specific to
Hmm.
that AI tool, but it did faces it pretty well. But most of them are pretty garbage.
Yeah, the tool that I was using was called Midjourney, and that you do have to pay for that after so many free images. But it's also tapping into something. Like, there's just no way that is being created just by a machine. It's just like not. It's not what they're saying that it is. It's definitely connected to uh, mass amounts of visual galleries somewhere. So yeah, Getty Images, that makes sense. I'm sure Adobe stock will get in on this game. like there's just tons of there's so many images on the internet that I've even seen it. Like there's also the other one that can make faces that aren't real. So it takes your faces from your profile photos and makes a whole new person that looks like a person, but it's not a real person. Like, that's freaky too. Um, but I think the only saving grace of like, oh, this is doom and gloom, and like the robots are coming to take our jobs or something. Good luck with that. Number one, because we just talked about, robots aren't going to like those contracts either, right? They're not even going to get paid. Um, but I still believe in storytelling. And I don't think there's something that I don't think that computers or animals or whatever can do that humans do. And I think the storytelling aspect, well, there are some animals that can tell pretty good stories too, but um, I feel like robots and software and things like that just have a hard time making a compelling story. I've seen AI writing tools, the copy tools, we use them at work sometimes, where it'll say, "Oh, we'll write a whole story for you. Just put the beginning, middle, and end right here," and it gives you a compelling narrative. But there's still something off about it. It just doesn't read right. It's not good. And I think like human imagination is still going to win out for a long time, um, longer than anybody in my next two generations probably. So I would say that the my advice to any artist worrying about this is to maybe stop shining so much light on it, except when it's deviant art stealing your stuff. Yeah, definitely keep that up. But instead, just double down on story. Do what the computers can't, and try to, yeah, police theft as much as possible. But that's an uphill battle for artists online, I think. So let's see here. What's some of the comments? I've seen AI art advertised on social media, but they only show horror art. It was creepy. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of Midjourney art, the art that's on Midjourney comes off as like really eerily creepy, like it's from a nightmare or something. So, I've seen some tattoo artists use the AI stuff too as well. So in the future, what's that? In the future, we'll all have a barcode microchip implant that will be part of the code in any image you make. Yeah, right. Download my comic, just scan my face. Right. All right. So how fast stuff is advancing. My only concern is how fast stuff is advancing. It's really truly logarithmic and it's nuts. Yeah, I try not to I try not to think about how fast computers can outthink us and how quickly things can be rendered and done because it's just mind-boggling. All right. Okay. Hey, so I'm wearing this hat and I've wore it in a couple stories. So it's a draw or die hat that we had made. It's a really cool hat. We're going to start dropping some new like limited edition merch. We're testing some things out. We had people ask about hats, so we made that. Um, that'll go up on Sunday. So Sunday's newsletter, there will be a merch drop in there for the hats, and the price and everything will be in there. But if there are other items that you want us to explore or see, we're talking about um, pencils and notebooks and actual art supplies, but we're sourcing them and making good stuff instead of just like cheapy throwaway things. We want it to be high quality. Um, I've even looked into like Musgrave pencils and Black Wings and things like that. Um, oh, newsletter. Someone doesn't know about the newsletter. Yes, the newsletter. It is drawordie.club. So that comes out every Sunday at noon Eastern time. And it's pretty much usually a topic like this or topics like these expanded upon. So I've done stuff about AI art controversy, things to help artists get through downtimes, uptimes. Sometimes I'll throw out some good advice about ways that artists can make money and things like that, and just kind of being supportive of artists in general. And that's what the Draw or Die Club is. So this is just the podcast here, the stream here is just an extension of the newsletter community there. So that's where all the awesome things really land. And we have a daily drawing prompts there too. So I didn't mean this to be a plug for that, but we also have the Draw Every Day newsletter, which comes out daily, and there's a new prompt that comes out every day at 5 a.m.
So that's at drawordie.club.
.club.
And then if you are wondering if there's anything going on, like a Promptober, I know that we've been kicking around maybe a January art challenge. A lot of people said they were interested in maybe going quarterly. We also have drawordie.co. That's where the hats will be. There's a couple other pieces of merch, but we usually will have on the menu there anything that we're doing art challenge wise. So there was a page for Promptober there. And once we figure out what the January thing is, I would look at drawordie.co for details.
Right. We also have like, I don't know if that was like, we have the cool buttons. That was the first piece of merch that we did. So, anyways, not a merch plug, but we want to make products that are inspiring you to draw. So that's why we've got the little buttons that say draw every damn day and stay lucky and different things like that to kind of motivate you. And maybe the bigger idea, and it's a little bit you know, a bigger pie in the sky idea, is that someday if you're out in the world and you might have a button or a pin on, somebody else in the community or might see it and go, oh, you're part of that too. And then you can pass that on to other artists that you meet to encourage them, because no matter what, we know how tough it is to be to be an artist or to be pursuing it or aspiring to it, trying to make money in it. You've made money in it and then you've failed at it. That's what Draw or Die is all about. The idea that you should draw every day. You should try to sketch something every day. It doesn't have to be amazing. You should definitely keep creating every day, because when artists, it's my belief, at least from my experience and from all of my friends that I talk to that are artists, that if you don't get to express yourself through art in some way, shape, or form, that you start to feel dead inside. So that's why it's Draw or Die. That's how I feel whenever I don't get to draw for long periods of time. I start to get grumpy, and I just kind of start to feel like, what's it even matter? So when you're drawing every day, the pencil keeps moving, the ideas keep flowing in your imagination, stuff like that. So that's what this whole Draw or Die thing is about. It's not a self-harm. it's not about self-harm or anything like that, or a threat or anything. So even though Meta or Facebook does believe that sometimes, so as we've talked about in the past. So yeah, check that out. I'll put some links in the description too when we finish this up and edit that. And now,
Magical wanted to know if we have considered a Discord.
we have a Discord. I just don't.
How do they get to the Discord?
I will also link you to the Discord again in this week's newsletter, just because it's been linked before, but there's only a few people in there. Barry's in there a lot. He's usually posting his. This is a reminder that I need to actually go on there more too. I don't do voice chat on there, but it's just a good way. We have a chat. Let me see if I can just go ahead. I got it here, right here. I can actually post the link to the Discord inside of this, I believe, as we're doing this live. Invite people. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and post this link directly in the chat here. I don't know if you might have to copy that. I'm not sure if links will work inside this chat. But that's an invite into the Draw or Die. And I think Barry's in there. We've got a tool talk chat. We've got a work in progress chat for the prompts. And yeah, I should probably I'll be straight up honest. As far as the Discord goes, I started getting into Discord and I just wanted to do it just for Draw or Die. But then suddenly I got some work related Discords. And so when I was on Discord, some other work channels, like I would just get peppered with like a lot of work stuff that I couldn't set to ignore. So then I just stopped looking at Discord because I did not want to be involved with work after work.
Maybe we can put that on my list. I'll screen the Discord and then I'll remind you.
You can remind me. Yeah,
I'll remind you. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Because I quit my job, so I can do that.
I always have the Discord on my phone and stuff. Lately I've just been I'm trying to get rid of a lot of distractions, because when we're, as a creative person, there's so many things that you could be doing and then you just get distracted. So I have shiny object syndrome. I might fall down a million rabbit holes. So I've been trying to not have as many apps on my phone and just try to be as efficient as possible. So, um, Alicia will tell you that she thinks that I think that I don't get enough done, and she tells me that I get way more done than normal people, but I still
Listen,
like I'm efficient enough.
you said that you haven't gotten anything done, and then randomly you just showed me 14 scripts that you had written for a thing. So,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, you're
yeah, and that's what I mean about being efficient. So I can actually write those scripts on the go. Maybe we can show a little bit about that in a second here. I won't show the scripts because like it's for something that I can't really show too much of. Maybe we'll get into that in the far, far future. But I can show you some of the art that I'm working on, and actually start kind of going into this. So I'm going to share that. Wait, how do I do that? Go like this? Nope. There we go. This is my iPad screen. This is a little look behind the scene of. I'm just going to call this the work in progress, or the work in progress segment. So this is what's currently on my drawing board, and I can't really talk about the story too much, but here is a bar from the 1970s in Connellsville. Um, Work spoiled it, yeah. So this here's a scene of actually, this is my mom and dad. There, I spoiled it. So this is my mom and dad when they met at a bar. And so it's a 1970s style bar. I do need to ink this. And actually, talking about being efficient right now, I need to get some B-roll of me inking, starting to ink this page for another video that I'm filming. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna show you, go like this. I'm gonna go right into here. I got here the canvas lamp, see, and it's kind of right beside right over the iPad. So as I'm doing this, I'm gonna be very efficient and not have to waste my time with this stuff because I wanted to do all this within an hour. Put that on there, kind of view that up. Might be in the way a little bit. Doesn't even matter. I just need some B-roll of my hand starting to ink this thing so that I can cut some things in a new video. Okay. Hey, David. David's on lunch break. He said he had a second to drop in, so he's saying hello. Check back, watch the whole stream. I'm dropping all kinds of secrets here. Yeah. Okay, cool. So I'm going to fade this out. There you go. Thank you. And then, got to push record on this phone up here. So now I can actually do some B-roll with my hands and start kind of inking this a little bit as I'm going. And I've been like, I can't, again, it's really hard not to talk about this because doing something, but I will say what I've been doing. This bar takes place in 1976. So I had to go back and see what a pitcher of beer and a pint of beer cost, and it was about $1 in 1976. An 8-cut pizza was $3, about $2.99. So I'm kind of hiding things like that. There's Jack Ham from the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's on the wall back here. I believe these pictures still exist. There's also something you don't see much because there weren't TVs in bars back then. There were these little bar top jukeboxes, and each little section of a seat could have its own little player, which was annoying because you'd be playing a song at your spot in the bar, and then some other little kid would be like playing his stuff at the bar. Yes, there were little kids in bars. Um, you could take your kid to a family restaurant back then. Let's say. Yeah, so I've tried to kind of get some details. This is a more cartoony style, let's say, and um, yeah, we'll start with my mom here. Oop, wrong layer. Yeah, and again, this is kind of nice because we're talking about digital art, talking about um, AI. Is this stuff bad, good? You know, and to me, like she said, I was able to, on a very busy day, kind of sit on my couch and drop a bunch of these frames from a little story frame. I'll show you real quick what I'm talking about here. So, well, no, that's the second story. So So this is just a storyboard in kind of a 19 by 20 style, or 1920. Sorry, that's not going to make any sense to people that don't know what I'm talking about. 1920 pixels by 1080, right? Um, yeah, so this one's a story that I've scripted out, and then these are just the storyboards. So it's kind of like an adult children's book, I suppose you could say. Hmm. Little stories and memories and things like that. And that's something that tonight we were supposed to have a quick interview with one of the Draw or Die community members. So if you're part of the community and you want to come on and do like a little like one-on-one question answer session, talk a little bit about your art, what you're doing, even if you're not professional or don't want to be, or you're just doing it for fun, it's kind of fun for other artists to see um, other artists talking and supporting each other. So, and let's see here. So I'm putting a lot of unnecessary details into these panels, but I'm gonna probably be referencing them again a lot later. Like even this guy sitting over here will be in like a future story. So I'm kind of thinking about that as I'm laying this out. So, so yeah, as she mentioned, I think I did draw like, or I wrote out probably 15 little mini scripts for another project this week. But yeah, anyways, I was saying, if you want to join the stream in the future and kind of come on and talk about your journey in art, email us. Tell them, shoot the email at them, Alicia,
Okay.
in the comments.
You can email me. My email address is Ally, ALLY, at draworddieclub.com. If you want to come on the show or you want to give us some feedback or you just want to say, hey, you can email me and I'll put that in the chat. Miriam, who is discovering all of our wonderful avenues of the Draw or Die Club, just found the daily prompts. And she asked if they really come out every morning at 5 a.m. So do you want to talk about why they come out at 5 a.m.?
Yeah. Well, number one, I think it's like nice because if you get up out of bed in the morning, and some people usually check their email, and it's usually full of bad news or whatever. So in this way, one of the first things you're going to see when you check your email is reminding you to draw. And one of the reasons I do it at 5 a.m. is because um, I get up at 5 a.m. and I try to get some drawing in every day before I have to go to the day job. And probably two hours, 2.5 hours I have to myself in the morning. So I'm doing things like this or doing some drawing. And I just think it kind of gives you the whole day, even if you're not able to draw that thing in the morning, because it might be something like, I think today's was, she wrote me a letter that said, so it's a story prompt, right? So then you're thinking the whole day, like, what's the letter say? Is it like a Dear John letter? Kind of get your imagination going for the day. And sometimes I'll just draw them out. Like, you don't have to show them. Like, I know I don't show a whole lot of them. But it's just about getting your pencil moving every day, so that you avoid that funk, that creative funk, right? I'm just kind of jumping around here when I'm talking. I can kind of show a little bit of that too because it's all on my iPad here. Let me finish this lip real quick. Okay. What a nice lady, Alicia. What a nice lady my mom was. Wonderful human being.
I'm not going to say bad things about your mom on a podcast.
This is sarcasm. Wonderful lady. Um, yeah, the drawing prompts. You can see all of my arts mostly in here. I did the El Mariachi, and I realized that the El Mariachi is the, right? Because it's an El Mariachi is the mariachi. So, hey, whatever. But Mariachi was living his best life. That's one of them. We got a couple others. They were the first people, so you kind of get this prompt. I mean, you don't have to do it digitally. You could just take the prompt and draw it on paper or whatever, um, and then just turn off that layer, draw, share it. So if you search the Draw or Die Club hashtag on Instagram, you're going to find people that are doing these. I've seen them. I've checked. I haven't checked in today yet on that.
How do they get the files? Because there's the prompt that comes at 5 a.m., but then this is different.
Oh yeah. So the reason I'm showing this is because oh yeah, that's different. Darn. Well, these prompts are the same for this month that come in the daily prompts. The voting booth seems strange. These digital files come in. Where is it? One moment. I'm in the wrong thing. There we go. So we have the Draw Every Day, Volume 1, 30 Days of Fresh Drawing Prompts. That can be found at gumroad.com/comics. That's for the digital prompts. And basically, yeah, I have another little video about that there. You can link that in the show notes too afterwards. I'm not going to pitch, I'm not going to try and sell these things. But yeah, those.
Well, you showed it, so
Yeah,
I would want to know what it was.
Yeah. I don't think I have my files, but yeah, it comes in like this. So you get the whole 30 prompts ahead of time. If you pay for that part, you can get that. But the regular prompts just come every day for the. Um,
Well, that's a subscription too.
Yeah, right. It's hard for me to draw and think at the same time. So I'm glad
You're
that you're.
using the both sides of the brain at the same time.
It's weird. I don't like it. Yeah.
I don't think that it's necessarily a bad thing just to go over what's out there, because I think that you've been really mindful to make things that people have asked for or that would help them. But I always feel like you apologize for the sale, but it's like, I don't know. It's not like you're selling like copper bracelets.
Right. Well, maybe I am coming up. Bracelets for arthritis. For the drawing hands. That's something else too. That heck, I talk to creators all the time that are like afraid to say that they even have T-shirts for sale or something like that. I'm mindful because I'm not really doing this to make money. So, um, uh, so I don't want to be constantly, you know, I'm doing the same thing that a lot of other creators do, where I'm not talking about the things that I have for sale, which is not a good thing, I guess. But I think the things that I want to sell through the Draw or Die Club is definitely tools to help amplify this. But you can do it all for free too. You just get the weekly newsletter, and every week we have a drawing prompt. So even if you're just drawing that weekly drawing prompt, that's good enough. I see people doing that. And if not, it's $5 a month. So, yeah. There's Kathy. Hey, Alicia, what do you think of these seats? Do those look like the seats from the bar? Because I think they're the.
It looks exactly like the seats from the bar.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
mean, I don't know what they looked like when your dad met your mom, but they're probably similar.
I think they're the same. Yeah.
I really like that your bar has purse hooks.
Yeah, look. See? Little purse
It's
hooks.
very. You may
Are they?
not. No, they are not, but there should be. Every bar should have purse hooks.
I thought there were purse hooks.
Mm-mm.
Or were you looking for one time and you couldn't?
Yeah.
Well, in this world, there's purse hooks for you, dear. Yeah. yeah, I mean, that's kind of another cool thing about, like, look, if you're doing digital stuff, right, and you're looking to fill in that area, you can just drag and drop, boom, done. So if you're doing like a lot of black area stuff, it can speed up the process. It's not cheating. It's basically the same as, filling it in with your ink brush or something like that. But yeah, you can really kind of get around and fill in some black areas pretty quick. Yeah. And this is going to all be in color as well when it's all done. And maybe if you guys can find it in the future, maybe you'll find it. Or maybe I'll link it way from now, long time from now. But this is something I'll be working on. So you're going to definitely see some more of this. Because if I'm taking the time tonight, I'm trying to be efficient here doing the stream, talking about those topics that we talked about, plus getting a little bit of what I need to do here for B-roll. And I think I got enough. B-roll of mine. I've got 13 minutes of B-roll. So there we go. So that's done. And for those that don't know what B-roll is, that's just extra footage that goes over footage that you're already using. Yeah, and hopefully the stream looks okay tonight. I see that I'm having some dropout issues again on the little screen when I look up. So I contacted StreamYard about this. So hopefully StreamYard can get this fixed up for me. But not too bad. If it's looking like crap, you can let us know in the comments for engagement. Right. Okay. All right. Okay, so we're at an hour 2. So we're going to probably wrap this up. If anybody has any questions for the future shows or whatnot, you can always just email us at... I should probably get a graphic that says our emails is on it. That's what I should do. That would be a lot better. Okay. DJ at draworddieclub.com. Right? Yes. Is that right?
I usually tell them to email me.
Okay, just email.
They could email you.
She'll get that to me. So if you have any questions or anything like that, you want to check it out. But yeah, for the hats and the new merch, check out the Draw or Die Club, drawordie.club newsletter this Sunday. We're going to drop some new stuff. And that's going to do it for tonight, I think. This has been a good hour conversation. And yeah, thanks everybody for watching, and we will see you the next time. I think my dog's also telling me it's time to go now. So I'll see you guys soon. Go to draw it will have a big one. Thanks again for joining, and we will see you next week. I don't know if I'm going to do the podcast Thursday. It's next week. Alicia says no. We'll make up for it another day. Maybe we'll do a Black Friday. It'll be a Black Friday.